So I recently made what is undoubtedly one of my largest photography purchases of all time. I was looking for a camera system that would be ideal for backpacking and traveling. It would be a system that is compact, lightweight, and doesn't sacrifice in terms of image quality. Now you could go with a 35mm setup for that. That would be easy, but I was looking more so for something medium format. And I already have a Pentax 6.7 that I absolutely love. It's one of my favorite cameras of all time. I use it all the time, but just for traveling and backpacking, a little too heavy. So I decided to go with a 6x6 camera, and I opted to go with one of the more expensive ones, honestly, and that is the Mamiya 6. But so far I'm really happy with this purchase of the Mamiya 6, and I actually brought it out with me to Germany when I was traveling there this summer. After shooting a couple quick test rolls in Hanover and in northern Germany, I decided to go on a trip with one of my friends, Tava, who is a great person. You should look at his photo and video work because it is fantastic. So anyways, my trip with the Mamiya 6 starts out in Bavaria, where my train from Hanover was a fashionable 2 hours late. So thank you, Deutsche Bahn. And we were in Munich for this time, and I've been there a few times, but I haven't really taken many photos in the city center before, so I figured we'd do that and enjoy some small beverages all the while. From there, we left the city center and went to Englischer Garten. I was hoping to find a few compositions there, especially of surfers on the Eisbach. This was during the early summer flooding in Bavaria, so all of the streams were really just ripping at the time. Wanting to keep things interesting, I first loaded up some Cinestill 400D. At this point, I have fairly neutral feelings towards the film stock, to be honest. With that being said, I do love the contrast and light halation that I got with this first photo. It wasn't all peaches and cream though, and I soon realized that the light meter on my Mamiya 6 was actually underexposing a few images. This is just a finicky part of this particular light meter, and when you have a composition with a sky in it especially, it will cause some issues. So I didn't know this until it was a little too late on a few of these photos, and it doesn't help that it was overcast as well. Making the best of this bad cloud cover, we decided to enjoy some more of the local delicacies, and I had a good time doing that. Unfortunately, the skies remained cloudy for the rest of the day, so there really wasn't much in the way of shooting, but I did at least find one car shot. Even though I didn't take many photos in Munich, I at least got to finish the day enjoying the finer things in life once again. The next morning we were back underway, and this time heading across the border into Austria to the city of Salzburg. If you're looking for an absolutely killer wheat beer, by the way, Die Weisse is a solid spot to check out while in Salzburg. Although I had some initial apprehension about using Cinestill 400D for general photography, I'm actually quite happy with how it turned out in the end. Not only were the greens really pleasant, but just overall tonality was nice, and sometimes the halation in Cinestill film can be a tad distracting, yet in these photos I don't think it caused any issues. All that being said, the clouds started to roll in, so I switched over to some black and white film, and keeping it in the Cinestill family, I actually went with BwXX, which is a lovely contrasty film overall. As I said before, Cinestill BwXX is a fantastic film stock. It does have more contrast than most traditional black and white film stocks, but that doesn't really mean that it will lack shadow detail or suffer from easily blown out highlights. This being Central Europe in the summer, we were soon met with a pretty strong downpour of rain that spoiled any chances of shooting. At least we had a nice spot to hunker down though, once again. Despite our best efforts to overcome the rain, it was just not freaking stop, man. So we went back to the hotel and kind of just tried to wait it out. Fortunately, just as the light would be getting good in the evening, the clouds cleared away and we had some more shooting opportunities. As much as I love black and white film, seeing the greens light up this way in the evening really made me wish I had loaded up some color negative film. But that being said, I really do like how the contrast is rendered in this photo. Me wanting to enjoy Salzburg to the fullest, I went to one of my favorite all-time venues in the German-speaking world. The place is called Augustiner Bräustube, and it is a traditional Kloster brewery that serves beer by the liter, which is amazing. They also have some decent Wiener Schnitzel, and the whole ambiance is quite nice. And actually got to finally use this built-in self-timer on the Mamiya 6. That's one feature I really love about this camera. Overall, in spite of the bad weather, I would say that it was a successful day in Salzburg, and we still had more to come. The next morning, we were up and at it bright and early to catch the bus into Germany again. We weren't heading back to Munich though, we were actually going to Berchtesgaden in the heart of the Alps. There was a really light overcast that day, but at least it wasn't supposed to rain while we were out and about, and we decided to go to Königssee, which is this beautiful alpine lake there. And because it was gray, I opted to stick with black and white film and popped in some Kodak T-Max 400. As you might imagine at this point, I really love shooting European forest landscapes. When shooting such landscapes with black and white film on a light overcast day, the highlights tend to come out fairly subdued, but this is a good thing. It's a great way to achieve very subtle tonality in one's landscape photos. The light fall off in the shadows is very gradual, and there's hardly any loss of detail in the highlights on those blades of grass. As we hiked along Königssee, we came across this straight up fairy tale waterfall. After having a quick little snack of sausage, of course, I jerry-rigged my tripod onto my backpack and used that built-in self-timer again. I love that feature. I'm quite biased towards waterfalls, but I do truly love this photo. All in all, I'm quite happy with the lighting, the exposure, and the tonality of it, and T-Max 400 is just perfect for this situation. While making our way around Königssee, I had the great fortune of walking through a patch of small ticks and ended up having 5 of those little bastards attached to my lower extremities. So for those who say I don't suffer from my art, my ass would beg to differ. Holding out the hope that the sun might break through the light cloud cover, I switched back over to color negative film. Given how stunning the greens were here at Königssee, I was inclined to go something more saturated like my BFF Ektar 100, and I did exactly that. Honestly, one of my favorite parts of film photography is the creative decision that goes behind selecting a particular film stock, looking at the landscape lighting conditions, and potential compositions. One effectively locks themselves into a particular photographic outcome. This can be a curse and a blessing given just how conditions may change over the course of 12 photos though. The sun finally started to come out, but it pretty much became instantly swampy and hot and just sweating my ass off. But fortunately, Königssee does have a few places where one can cool off in the classic German fashion. By this time, it was getting later in the day, so we made our way over to Obersee. Suffice to say, I had to get a couple basic ass photographs of that boat shed there, and I also loaded up some Kodak Gold 200, which in my opinion is a happy medium between Ektar 100 and Portra 400 in terms of color, tonality, and contrast. For this last photo of Obersee, I definitely got sketchy with it, but the end result was really worth it. This is my favorite photograph of the day, I'd have to say, probably of the trip. It is less common of a composition for a frequently photographed lake like Obersee, and the dynamic weather conditions actually cooperated for this split second. The highlights in the clouds did blow out a tad, but in the end, it's not the end of the world. Sadly, our time had come to an end in Berchtesgaden at Königssee and Obersee, and I snapped off a couple last photos on the way out, and then I slowly made my way back across Germany to Hanover. Well, there you have it for my trip to southern Germany, to Austria, and to the Alps. Overall, I'm pretty happy with quite a few of the photos I've taken, and this was a good trial by fire with the Mamiya 6. And overall, I think that performed pretty well, and I think it was just a nice experience using this camera in terms of weight, in terms of how cumbersome it was or was not, and in terms of simply photo quality. Really happy with the results. Of course, there was some underexposing because of this light meter that I'm still getting used to, but otherwise quite a few photos I really like, including in particular this photo of the waterfall that I took in black and white, and then you have this last photo of Obersee, which is just such a beautiful mountain scene. In any case, I will be doing more backpacking with this Mamiya 6 in the future, and I hope you guys stick around for that.